All right. Hello, Steve. Great to see you again.
Same, Joseph, a
All right.
pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time. I'd like to just kind of give you an opportunity to update what's happening with YieldNodes and kind of stay at the macro level in terms of the crypto market, some of the projects you have going on. Also would like to maybe kick it off with a discussion of one of your founding principles for YieldNodes is to be a source of good. And if we can just talk briefly about what YieldNodes and the YieldNode members have been doing for the Ukrainians and the refugees in Ukraine. Yeah, if you can just kind of give us a quick update on that.
We did a small campaign, like inside YieldNodes, members could donate some of the withdrawal sums to Ukraine, you know, for all the victims of the war, for people that were fleeing over the border. And we got a lot of donations. Like, we were surprised ourselves because we made a special offering around it. We said everything that is pledged by members, we will match from our own funds to 100%. And we gathered around 100,000 euros up until now. So me and Urs, since we are both the shareholders of the company of YieldNodes and Decenomy, each forked out another 50K, and we managed to donate 200,000 in crypto to the Ukrainians. And I believe that's quite a nice sum.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Mostly for humanitarian help. And on top of that, on the outside, we also, because one of our coins will be used for humanitarian purposes, which is the Dash D coin. And we made a website, it's called Help for Ukraine. I believe the link, I sent the link out in the email, in the last email in the news, but I believe you will be able to show it in the video. Right. And also we are helping, we purchased a few buses, and we are helping also from Germany out for people that are fleeing over the border. We provided housing now for over 300 people, and it keeps going.
That's fantastic.
So, because we also wanted to do some hands-on approach, you know, to really help out. Right.
And I'd read where Urs bought a couple of buses to help with the movement of the refugees.
The background to this is, on the one side, that we have a lot of people that we know personally from Ukraine. Like, for example, one of the programmers of YieldNodes is a Ukrainian. His name is Igor. Then the wife and family of Urs is Ukrainian. He used to live in Odessa for quite a long time. And he remembered when Russians came over into the city. So it has also a little bit of a personal
understood.
Personal history. But also it's like very simple. There's one country that is aggressing and one country that is defending. And so we try to help the people that are caught in the line of fire. You know, we are not really, there's people that defend Russia, people that defend Ukraine. There will be all kinds of reasons behind how things are moving, and we do not want to go to become very political, but there's a lot of people that are fleeing also around here where I am in Italy. There's a lot of people coming, and so we try to help those people that are suffering and taking the consequences of these political decisions.
Right. No, I appreciate that too, staying out of it politically, just as a humanitarian effort. You know, 20 years ago, I began an initiative, Global Peace Meditations. We've had global peace meditations with millions of people involved, and we're initiating some now through my nonprofit. So I'm very keen on supporting things from a humanitarian perspective, as well as just human consciousness, trying to foster a planet of more of harmony and peace rather than conflict. And that's one of the things that intrigued me about YieldNodes when I began researching it last year. Was you seem to have a higher vision for YieldNodes, and Decenomy is part of that, right?
Exactly. We're just trying to be, to do a good thing. While also, of course, everyone can make good money and everyone can work on this new economy where there's a lot more transparency going on than simply just printing bills and not being held accountable for anything.
Right.
And on top of that, while building this, we really want to be a force of good that is trying to change things into a more positive outcome, hopefully.
Right. Do you mind if I'd actually printed it out? I was inspired by the vision for Decenomy when you came out in one of the newsletters. Do you mind if I just read that for viewers here?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Decenomy is based on the idea of analyzing the deficits of the current economic system, redefining economic rules with a completely new blockchain-based solutions. Since we want to cover different markets and areas, it's necessary to work with several coins and their associated blockchains at the same time. We see that blockchain technology by itself does not solve problems, but it offers the tools for new economic solutions to be built upon them. We have to break down barriers to our thought processes. For example, that only states and banks are responsible for supply of currencies in economic areas are defined by nation states. We question everything, adopt the tried and tested strategies, and change things that do not help and sometimes even harm the real economy. We want to give the real economy and the consumer their money back and create a balance between the money supply and real goods and services and the associated value creation. We are not technical or market idealists or even extremists. We are pragmatists and come from the real economy and know where the problems exist. But we know that we also need some idealism to design, define realistic goals for the future. To me, that's a really powerful vision. And really, to me, it speaks to the integrity of the team that you guys have put together around YieldNodes and Decenomy.
Exactly. Just this is something that we're trying to do because everyone is working towards, going more digital, bringing out coins that help to gamble, coins, especially the DeFi scene, like decentralized finance. There's more and more money flowing into those systems, but to what end use? This is the question that we are posing ourselves, because there's more money, there can be yield, you can yield farm this, reinvest in that, and this is basically the same that banks have been doing for centuries offline. So we want to build coins and balance these coins out with a real economy in the back of our heads, like coins that can then be used to purchase goods and services. Coins when you invest in, you get something tangible. You get you can trace where your food is coming from. You can invest into sustainable energy and these kinds of things, compared to another coin that is just used for some protocol that invests in another protocol and then goes somewhere and then you lose track of it. And this is the tendency that we see happening right now.
Right. No, that's good. And, Decenomy is a combined word from decentralized economy, DeFi, combined word from decentralized finance. How do you explain the difference in terms of what you all are doing with Decenomy, between the difference between Decenomy and DeFi?
So in DeFi is essentially decentralized in finance, meaning there's protocols in place. I don't know if you followed a lot of these new coins that have been emerging on the market that are consistently, it's called being rug pulled, yes. So there's people invest a lot of money. They believe this is completely decentralized. And in the end, you hear another protocol has been hacked. Another project has backed up and went AWOL. So this is the dangers with DeFi. With our decentralized economy, we are still in the process of being quite central at the moment. So we have we exercise a lot of control over our coins at the given stage. Like in a future stage, everything should be working decentralized and governed by an AI that is automatically adjusting the coins to each other. But we are not yet at this stage. And we believe it's good that we are still building out the coins and the use cases for the coins until we can trust the process fully. Like centralization has, of course, its negatives if it's in the hands of people that do not know what they're doing. And we, hopefully we are kind of, you know, people that once we see that the protocols are stable and sturdy and everything is working as it should, then we go the next step and decentralize everything. Like we see so many people, especially in the Discord channels with all these finance protocols, they're very clever programmers, very talented people, but they all have a very short vision of what they're doing. They create a gambling coin, millions, like if you look right now, there's two protocols out there. One is called, I believe, Titano, and the other is Fiat Finance. And they're collecting millions of funds. They promise tens of thousands of percents, but there's no actual application behind it. Like people invest money, and then at some point when the multiplicator run up, they're trying to get their money out more on the expense of other people, because there's no business case behind it. You cannot generate 10,000% a year out of thin air. It's not, this is not how economy works. And this is why we are still a little bit more on the centralized side of things, are working on the use cases. Once the use cases then materialize and the first cases are really out there, that we can take as pilot or lighthouse projects, so to speak, then we go the next step and basically, how do you say, when you're riding the horse and you let loose and let it let it gallop into the sunset, so to speak.
Right. And so then that will, the next phase is the decentralized governance of the
exactly. This is then going to come.
Right.
Because I can tell you for a little, just as an anecdote a little bit, at the beginning when we had Sapphire, there was a small hack happening in the chain. And because we exercised control over it, we managed to halt the chain, which in a decentralized environment would absolutely be impossible. Recap the funds and fix the bugs and get everything going again. So there are still a little bit, this is still a little bit of control that we can do, while in another instance, if we were one of those DeFi protocols, the funds would have been lost to hackers that would have probably, you know, hit the project hard, so to speak.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. Really, it seems like a natural evolution. Something doesn't emerge out of nothing. It has to start with some centralized idea or notion or plan, and then it goes from there to something more decentralized. Yeah. Now you have
exactly.
Last time I checked, there were 21 blockchains in the Decenomy hub that I saw. Is that right? What are the most exciting? What are the most exciting ones from your standpoint in terms of development and this decentralization?
To me personally, the Sapphire, in any case, it's our biggest and most sturdy blockchain. It has already proven itself as a consumer coin. There's very decent volume on the chain, so that you can, if you want to sell your Sapphire and you go to one of the major exchanges that supports it, you can get rid of it very easily if you decide to do so. The other coins more or less all carry, except Dash Diamond and Peony, which is the agricultural coin and one of my favorites, because I like to track in the future where my food is coming from, and the things that I can unfortunately not go into detail here because we're just finalizing the latest things for the actual use case, but it's very interesting. Like from my perspective, it's one of the better options of the coins. And the other ones that we have in the portfolio are still very, very small. The reason behind it is that we are growing them step by step and hopefully get them to the same size as Sapphire, so that we can then balance out the coins against each other at first manually a little bit, and then at a later stage with the use of AI that is balancing all the coins out and can so avert dumps and bumps in certain blockchains. This is also the reason why we have many coins, because if you have more than one, the risk of manipulation is much lower, and they can and if an evil entity would try to manipulate a coin, we can still, with the help of the other coins, balance it out without having all the blockchain at risk.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So Sapphire, Peony, those two are quite big. Dash Diamond we're using for the humanitarian side of things, for the donations. It's also quite on the bigger side. And we are still very centralized, to mention another weak point of our project that we are going to fix in the future. We are still it's not exactly a weak point, it's a stepping stone. We are still quite centralized in terms of exchanges. We have a few exchanges that we're working with, but we know that we have still the way to go to apply for other exchanges to space out the coins. But the moment we do that, we lose a little bit of control because the coins are going out in the wild, so to speak, and in exchange, and the liquidity goes to other coins. So this is, in one step, it makes sense because we will grow much bigger once we do that. And the second, we want everything perfect on a smaller scale so that there will be no problems going forward growing. A lot of the projects that we know from past knowledge make the mistake of applying to every exchange they see, trying to get out, growing like many thousands of % overnight, only then to be dumped down because people want to pocket the profit. They're going to sell everything. It's a rush decision. And then there's no room to grow left. There's no, if you already throw down all your aces, you know what's left then. So,
right. No, I get it. And I've seen that happen many times. And so you have taken over 2 exchanges now, Byrake and what was the other?
Heliobank?
Yeah, Heliobank. Yeah. And you grow those by just enlarging the community? Are you promoting those? How do people
not only to our own coins, also the regular coins. You know, these are regular exchanges where we hold a stake in it. We do not own them 100%. We rather co-own projects so we can grow together and keep the expertise of the companies. This is our growth tactic in general. When we approach a project or a project approaches us and says, look, we understand the Decenomy vision, we would like to be part of it. And if the project's interesting, and of course, the costs and the calculations make sense, then we like to enter that company, but retain the core team or those people that are enthusiastic about this project, retain them and make them join our project. So we do never go in like a hostile takeover, everyone gets fired, and we then think we can do better and take it. It needs to make sense. And this is how
it seems like the strategy you applied with the friendly takeover of the wallet, the
Flits,
Flits wallet,
exactly. That we communicated last month in a newsletter. That we were working with the guys already for a long time. We had a lot of talks and a lot of mutual interest in the masternoding sphere, and sooner or later we saw that we would be growing together. So as a friendly takeover, we basically said, you know what, let's join forces, work together. You are investors in YieldNodes anyways already, and we like the technology that you built, like of masternoding and hosting on the Flits wallet, and the technology of staking. So let's grow together. And we slowly basically grew together. And we retained all the talent that Flits has. All the guys are still working. So it was quite good move in my book.
I love the idea of that. I've downloaded the wallet and started setting it up. And, what I realized, and I may be in the same boat as many other members of YieldNodes, I really don't want to get into the technical details of masternoding. I know it appeals to some. I like truly the idea of the passive income. And, but I thought, because I'm active in YieldNodes, I thought I might play around with the wallet and do some masternoding all from the app. I mean, it's a great idea, and you can do sharing of masternodes too through that wallet. Yeah,
exactly. And the thing is also, we realize it's a steep curve for someone who doesn't know anything yet, but we are also there to educate people, because we would like to paint a crazy picture, would be our ideal partner would be someone who invests in YieldNodes, but is also running masternodes, is also doing some staking, starts to understand that by stabilizing and by supporting, by hosting a few nodes, he's helping the full ecosystem, and goes away from this mentality of, I want to invest and then I take out in the good old fiat, and with the fiat, then I'll buy myself a house. It would be much better if he sees it as, I'm investing in Sapphire or I'm investing in coins, I'm staking for the long run. I take gains out and I purchase what I need, while I still stabilize the network, stabilizing also YieldNodes yields, and seeing it as a way of slowly transforming the mindset towards these coins are holders of value, and I can trust them to hold my value, to move towards such a mindset instead of the fiat system. which essentially, even though a lot of people know it, if you have a banknote in hands, it's still something that you like in your mind is very trustworthy and very stable and holding a lot of value, when in truth, you and I both know that it's being printed at absurdum, like they print bills all the time. The inflation now is sky high and it's probably only going to get worse. So by shifting your mindset towards the coins and holding them, you will not only help YieldNodes and the full ecosystem, you will also be in a market that is transparent, because there's no cheating involved. Like every coin is unique, everything is transparent and verifiable. So it's a good thing.
No, I like that explanation, Steve. I really do. And it's, you know, a little bit of my own personal story from the past. In the last economic crisis, one of my banks that I had my money in, this was probably 2007, you know, with the, you know, Lehman Brothers collapse and all the other banking crises that we're experiencing, the subprime mortgages.
Essentially every bank, I think I was also
every bank, right? And I think there's
like dominoes, it was falling through the all around the globe.
There's a false sense of security in the stability of that. And to my point, I literally was on my way to my office. I heard on the radio that my bank was being taken over. I didn't hear it from my bank. I didn't get a letter or a notice. I literally heard it on the radio as a, you know, a sensational news story that my bank was being taken over by Chase. So I immediately changed directions, went to my bank. It was closed, middle of the day. And that really frightened me about, you know, access to my money. Eventually I was able to get my money, but from that point forward, I've kept as little money as I can possibly keep in the bank. And I'm, you know, I might be foolish.
Really, I believe you're on the right track here, because I'm just the same. I have very, very little money in banks. I have a lot in crypto and different assets, and I believe anything, even the good old, I store, I don't know, a piece of gold and dig it into the garden, would be safer than, kind of, you know, giving it to the bank, especially also because I have made through my career as an affiliate marketer and having worked with a lot of partners, building offers, I heard in many instances that even from a business, I was lucky, I need to admit, I never had anything taken from me from a banking account, but my business partner, he had way over 6 figures in a bank, in a AAA rated good bank from a rating agency. And overnight, that bank, it was a Lithuanian entity, but it was #1 in customer satisfaction, everything perfect. Overnight, they took the funds and they went offshore. And he never saw the money again. It was a AAA rated, full-on licensed consumer bank for people, debit card system, banking accounts, offices. So really.
And that really is speaking to one of the biggest concerns people express about YieldNodes is the reliability or trust factor. And in my view, you know, the YieldNodes team, you guys have all been super transparent. You state over and over again, you like to state over and over again that it's a high risk investment. People need to make their own decisions, but what isn't risky? I've lost money in options and equities and, you know, you name it, real estate. So there's nothing really ultimately 100% secure. And if you have something that's 100% secure, your yield is going to be next to nothing, like bonds nowadays.
Exactly. Right? And the thing is also, if you are investing in something that is relatively secure, but yields you like 1-2% a year, also the time frame needed to basically get your seed money out would be 50 years. So you need to trust something that is very little risky, but has some risk for 50 years. versus, you know, trying to. So what I'm always suggesting when people see yield nodes, if they can, or if they would like to invest a little bit that is not affecting their lifestyle at all, just to be part of it, because the compounding is still growing even a small deposit into very considerable sizes, to take the plunge and go for it, in a sense of that they still are very well diversified and have many assets, you know, in other sources. Because this, I read the sentence every day, like, you know, do not put all your eggs in one basket. This is, I think, very prevalent out there. It's a very famous sentence, but it's still true. It's still kind of a true concept. Do not, of course, you can over diversify, and if you put into 1,000 scams €1 at the end of the day, you will have nothing. This is also true. You can over diversify, but it's much better to over diversify than to put everything into one offer and this offer then disappears. So
yeah, that's really basic investment strategy. I work with a lot of high net worth financial advisors in my other business, and diversification is the key. And the stress and anxiety that they have managing other people's assets for them, it results from the volatility in the market, from the uncertainty, from, you know, you can do technical analysis till you're blue in the face, but it doesn't matter if a war breaks out or there's some other event that disrupts the economy.
Before the wars, a lot of people suggested to me and said, you know what you should do to stay, you know, to diversify your assets well, Steve? I think you should buy some apartments right in Moscow, in Russia, because there the price will be always very stable and you will be very well diversified. And you see, but no one saw this coming. No one really thought that there would be war in the center of Europe. Nowadays, this is like, you know, 1950, like that, in the middle of the last century again. So it was completely, everyone was, I remember when the war broke out, I was in Malta, I was visiting our offices, and everyone was just astounded because no one thought it would come to this again nowadays. And now people, all the countries here in Europe, they're ramping up the military budgets again. Germany is putting 1 billion trying to refurbish the old tanks and get again the war thing going. And again, this, it's a very bad development.
Yes. And you know,
you can just never know. You need to.
Yeah. There's a wonderful book out by G. Edward Griffin. It's an older book now, but it's called The Creature from Jekyll Island. It talks about the foundation of the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank in 1913. But the guy's a historian as well, and he traces the formation of governments. And while we think governments are for the people, by the people, that type of thing, governments have always formed by the aggressors to control and dominate other people. You know, it wasn't there really has rarely been a benevolent formation of a government to really support the people. And so this constant pattern of war and the budgets that go into that. My father was in World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War. I mean, he lived most of his adult life in war. And I agree with you completely. I was shocked myself. You know, I wouldn't have thought that could be happening nowadays, right? You think there are other solutions, but it speaks right back to the kind of the more philanthropic humanitarian approach of the vision of Decenomy is like, you know, bring the power back to the people. There's no reason we have to relinquish power and control in today's world with technology. It can be decentralized. People can have
decentralized, and it can also be so much cheaper and so much, you know, removing so much of this old weight that is on it. With blockchain and with the technology of the coins, you will not be in need of lawyers, notaries, everything, all these positions that you need to have nowadays. When you go and make something to assess that what you're saying is true, you need a stamp on it, you need money, you need to wait, and that document goes into another entity where you need to get notarized, apostilled, then you open a company, the company is checking again if you truly have the money, that is, where's the money coming from. With blockchain, everything that you have can be checked back right up until the beginning. From where did it originate from? Where did it come from? Who did you pay? It's very transparent. Right. It's all, and if it's there, it's factually impossible not to have happened any other way, because this is the blockchain technology.
Sure.
So this will free up a lot of course, those people in those jobs, they're a little bit, cynical about it, because their jobs will be kind of obsolete in a certain sense, but it will open up a lot of more opportunity for other things. Like you can involve yourself into something more meaningful, into something where you can really make a difference to make the life better for everyone.
I agree completely. Yes. I'd like to speak for a moment. One of the common concerns that is expressed to me when I'm presenting YieldNodes is the idea that with the high yields that are being paid out, that compounded, you extrapolate that out 5 years, 10 years, and there's,
and you have all the money in the world.
Yeah, it's all the money in the world. And I know you've said this on our last call, that at some point these yields won't keep growing that high. Something will change that. We don't know what.
It changed already a little bit, Joseph. If you see the yields, like we try to reflect the yields as we generate them, and as we are growing into a bigger pool, into the bigger network, the yields already are not that high anymore at the moment, which also depends on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is still the metric where all the other coins are kind of pegged onto. So Bitcoin hasn't moved quite big as of lately. It's always hovering between $38,000 and $42,000, $43,000. So if that goes higher, the yields also will go higher a little bit. So it's hanging, it's connected.
Right. There are economic circumstances that are affecting yield, Bitcoin, but there's also, we're right on the verge of some significant institutional adoption and family office adoption. I think that's going to dramatically change that. Now, institutions getting involved, there's like institutions involved in the equities market, probably more capacity for manipulation.
Yes, so, but a few of the banks have understood that if you cannot fight the enemy, you should join forces. And so there's a few, especially in Switzerland, a few banks, and I believe one of the bigger ones is called Bank Frick, comes to mind, where I've spoken to a few bankers, and they, for example, they offer Bitcoin custody. So if you get an account with them, you can send your Bitcoin to them, you can exchange to the traditional fiat, no nonsense, exchange back, and they will have, of course, a fee for custody. And I believe this is quite a nice way, Of course, at the beginning, everyone was like, kill all the banks, Bitcoin will be reign supreme, but you need to somehow, to have commercial success, you need to strike a balance, I believe, to work with the right entities together, to facilitate it for the common people to understand that it's not something.
Right.
It's quite a clever move.
Yeah, it makes sense. There has to be a transition from system to another system as that evolves, rather than a complete breakdown. I mean, I don't think anyone wants to see a complete breakdown of existing systems. They have to evolve. The classic marketing example is, the whole train industry 100 plus years ago, when passenger aircraft became more popular, the train railroad industry was diminished, but they failed to recognize they were in the transportation business, not in the railroad business. So had they made the transition, had those companies been the ones that invested in passenger airlines, they could have sustained their growth and their relevance in the economy. I think it's the same way in finance and economics now. I mean, banks really
could have kept their service on time also. This is a joke in Europe. In Europe and also that the trains are just never punctual. It just never works.
Right.
But still, here trains are still very popular also, like all across Europe. Going by train. It also has some romantic vibe, trekking through Europe on a train, seeing the nature, passing by, and it's also quite cheap compared to airline because the gas prices shoot through the roof. So there's always high and lows.
Right. Yeah, I do romantic. The trains are not as popular out here in the States, especially in the West. But we're actually thinking about doing a train vacation out to Colorado or Indianapolis for the Red Pill Expo.
Okay.
And have you ever heard about that? That's pretty fascinating.
I wish. I am a European, so and I rarely hear what's going on outside of Italy. So I'm a little bit.
We'll talk about
but
that.
I follow.
Yeah. Well, back to the subject of yields, and correct me if I'm wrong. Here's how I'm looking at it. I believe people are looking at the yields and the compounded yields as compounded interest earning money on money being invested in a bank account or, certificate deposit or something like that, a savings account. But the YieldNodes yields are based on income that's earned by the server rentals that are doing the masternoding. It's not a simple.
So it's generating more coins. So it's not an interest model. It's more like, a revenue model.
Yeah, exactly. So if you look at the revenue of Amazon over the last, 15 years, the revenue of Facebook from advertising, Google, you might have thought it was unbelievable 15 years ago to see what the revenue Amazon would be making today. That's based true. On where
if you just check the net worth of Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk and see this kind of sums that those people have, it was absolutely unbelievable 5 to 10 years ago.
Absolutely. Even a few years ago, I was just reading about Elon Musk was pretty much broke, I think, in 2018.
There's also a study by a very famous economist, I just don't remember the name, that he's afraid that society is going to go into a level of the extremely poor people, which already exists, and extremely rich through cryptocurrency, like extreme sums of money that don't make even sense on paper, through all those crypto projects and all those crypto people that invest early into crypto, because it is still early to invest. And if you look at it, even if you take it from a perspective how big we are right now, if you're taking our biggest coin, which is Sapphire, and check the total, there's a chart that I'm always using, and a lot of in the scene people know it, but it's a very good resource. It's called coinmarketcap.com.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you look there, you can see the rankings of the best, most fluid coins. There's, of course, Bitcoin number 1, Ethereum number 2, and there's a long list of coins. And Sapphire, despite its quite big growth, it's on rank 250. So we are with our top coin, which is the biggest one, where we have the most work done and the most money in, we are only 250. Mm-hmm. So you see, plus our 20 other coins, which are very small. So we have prepared for that growth. So we are ready to make that growth, and we are very interested in growing, because the bigger we grow, the better partners we can convince to join the Decenomy system. At the beginning, when we had a very small coin that was worth like 50, 100,000 euros in transactional fees, we had no chance of getting any significant partners aboard that would like to do anything with us. And now we have, again, I cannot tell you which country or which continent, no, not continent, which country is interested in doing it, but we have now a few governments inquiring that they would like to run, that the Decenomy should run the full economy in that country. So we have inquiries for real on a big scale, because they see the volume, they see how we approach this thing, and that we want to combine the coins with energy creation, with sustainable farming, and they're interested in a full package for development. So
that's fantastic.
This is very This is great news.
Wow. And so the Decenomy hub would eventually, every one of those blockchains would cover a different aspect of the economy.
Exactly. This is the goal. And it was not that easy, because when we started out, we didn't even have that vision. We grew, and then we thought, okay, we make a coin, and the coin is fueling here. But it outgrew and outpaced everything so fast that we needed to think of a more macro level. We needed to take a step back and make sure that the coins can sustain the volumes and take go back to the drawing board to make sure that the coins and the coin technology is also fast enough to process all those transactions in the different aspects of the decentralized economy. And that this is why a lot of the coins that we have are still so small, or feel like there's only a website, or nothing yet happened. Why is there no white paper? Because this is all in the making, and it's going to be spaced out carefully in the future, because once we start with it, we cannot go back. So we need to make sure that everything we do in this kind of, in the decentralized economy makes sense, so that all the cogs are in place to make sure that everything works as it should.
I like that idea. I like it. And that is a vision, it seems like, where it's going, right? Absolutely.
Exactly.
To that extent, what is the size of the team now? I know the core team 3 years ago was, half a dozen people. Now, what's the size of the YieldNodes?
A little bit over 50 people are involved in YieldNodes.
And all
Most
decentralized?
of them are, of course, all working around the globe. Like, we have a few people in the office in Malta, but more and more people all around the globe that are working for us. And we caught also a few partners that are doing with very cool technologies where they have the patents on to do, for the farming, for the battery tech and the solar tech from Germany. And this is the next step that we hopefully get to unveil. I don't want to make any promises because it has been moved so many times, and we had so many iterations of white papers, so that we have no idea when we had it that we needed to throw it to the side and go a new one, because it just outgrew, the vision became much bigger for it. So hopefully in the next 2 months, we have the first project unveiled for the first coin in Decenomy that is using the coins, where you can use them in a really good manner.
Well, you guys done an amazing job building this team and building out YieldNodes and then Decenomy network. I don't know, 35 years ago, with a couple of doctors, I started a biotech company, low power laser therapy. We raised a few $1 million. We did 3-4 years of double-blind clinical trials. We're going to take the company public on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange while we got FDA approval for our devices. And literally right before we were about to submit for approval, the FDA came out and shut us down, and literally put us out of business. Well, they claimed we were doing something illegal, selling our veterinary device for human use before it was approved, but we weren't doing that. It was a classic Gestapo type takeover. I'm guessing. I fought it for a couple of years. I was the CEO. I fought it for a couple of years and just realized that it was probably a pharmaceutical exec that called his buddy commissioner at the FDA at the time and said, squash this company. And they did. I got sued by investors, employees, stockholders, vendors. And so I have a great appreciation for building a team. We had built a team, and then the rug was pulled out from underneath us. And again, it's back to that earlier topic of the centralized governance, the centralized control, that the motivation, the interest is not for the people, right? The FDA's charter is to protect the rights and welfare of the population of the United States. And all they've done is basically pander to the pharmaceutical companies and squash the little guy. And so much
for, the freedom, to do and to manage and to build everything the way you should be able to. This is the same reluctance that I have each time I'm dealing with banks, because a lot of people and a lot of companies are approaching us and saying, why are you not taking fiat money for YieldNodes? Why are you not starting out? You can get a license here, you do that. But this is always problematic, because banks still, I made a good example for the Swiss bank, which is completely out of the ordinary, but most banks, they do not want it. They're going to try everything to put some, to stop for for example, if we would start implementing fiat payments and people would send like huge sums, first of all, we would need to exchange them to the coins to get working. This would require days. Then the banks would charge probably horrendous fees. I have no example, but I know this is not going to be a fair. They want to make their cut. And the worst is that they can freeze the money, and they can freeze it for up to 6 months, you know, without any. The same happened with PayPal. If you have an issue with PayPal, PayPal is an extremely centralized and self-interested company. If someone complains, or if they think you're doing something, you can make up any excuse, something like that, and they have the legal right to freeze your assets for 6 months. So imagine what then, you know, someone invests into YieldNodes, the money is frozen 6 months, no one can do anything except the bank earning interest on it, and then releasing it after you complete 1,000 forms of, you know, it's quite horrible. And they try to enforce it also to the crypto. So when you're dealing with exchanges, it's not very bad right now, but I can see that it's gonna get worse in the future. You can transact huge sums, but if anything goes into the compliance center and then the red flag goes up, they can, for example, say, okay, you paid from here and here 5 months ago a payment. Please explain what you did. And in crypto is like, you know, you spent 0.1 BTC from one address to the other. If you didn't keep track exactly what you spent to whom, and you cannot explain it to them, they're going to block your account. They do not want to, but they are forced to from the compliance to do that. And then you need to run through the same hoops to get your money out of the exchange. This is why I'm advocating, get yourself sticks, get yourself wallets that you hold control, you and no one else, save your password, make a paper backup, be in charge. You need to take responsibility, but it's much, much better than trusting a third party that has not really your interest at heart. So be it exchanges, banks, these guys are just not your friends. It's not as it used to be 20 years ago when Farmer John could walk into the bank and saw Fred behind the thing, and afterwards they were going to drink a beer. It's not like this anymore.
No. And what you're talking about is exactly why I started my blog, blackbookcrypto.com, to address those very issues. And you know, the banks see the writing on the wall, and that's why they're so resistant in blocking any attempt to use crypto. So you've given me a lot of time here. I appreciate it. Anything else you'd like to offer members or viewers?
We have this, Joseph, we have our next, you know, we do regular meetings and for auditing. So we regularly, like 2 times a year, invite members to come to Malta to check the numbers. So to at least, it's not a guarantee for how things are going to go into the future, but you can assess how they went in the past. You can see how much money. You would need to sign an NDA because we do not like to throw money around, like to throw the sums or the balances around in the web, because it always attracts just jealousy and evildoers and potential hackers who think this YieldNodes could be a target for anything bad. So we like to invite you, if you would like to come, it's from July 13th to 16th. If you would like to come, we would take care of the flight.
Absolutely.
The meal, of course, no freebies else, because else we don't want to overdo it with the niceties, because else we get into hot water of, you know, trying to buy your opinion. So, but flight and food, this is a necessity. So this we are good. And you could see how much money we collected. I will be there as well. I'll be flying also. You will meet Urs, the master noder. You would see the offices, the staff. We have very nice guys and gals there that are working. And we would host a meeting there, and we would show you how much money has been collected on my admin panel, how much the liabilities are, how much the compounding is coming at, what the total balance is, and how much money we truly have in the wallets, in the nodes, in the coins, if everything in the past has worked as it should have. The only thing that we would like you to then is sign a small paper that basically says, I have seen and I believe that, without holding any responsibility, of course, I have seen that the balances are matching or are higher than they need to be to pay out every member. And that's it.
Sure, absolutely. I'd be honored and thrilled to be able to be a part of that audit. I've got 40 years of business experience and
That would be good.
some unfortunate regulatory experience. So
I've heard, yeah.
Absolutely thrilled to be able to be a part of that. Absolutely.
That would be great.
And so anything you'd like to say to other viewers here about the near future, the projects that you'd like to focus on? I love what you offered about the Flits wallet. I think that would be a great thing. But anything else before we close this call?
We made some little changes just inside because YieldNodes is my part. Decenomy is more like Uster's part. So I'm more in charge of the payouts, the pay-ins, watching the money flow, and make sure that everyone in YieldNodes understands everything and is well aware of the risks that are taking. Because as said, we don't want to make any false promises. It is high risk. So if you take part with a little bit, and that works just fine.
Okay.
Else, on YieldNodes side, we made a few changes this month. Finally, the USDT on the TRC20 protocol inside, so you can withdraw via USDT Theta. You can take out the withdrawals. It carries a 1% fee, but the fee flows back into the pool for the benefit of everyone. So it's not a fee for us. It's just something because we need to exchange again from one coin to the next, build a reserve on that for the withdrawal. So it would, if we wouldn't charge a little bit, it would negatively impact the full system. Therefore, the 1% that is being charged. No. If you want, you can always, take BTC free of charge and exchange yourself. It's cheaper, but that's your choice. Yeah. Then we integrated the Portuguese language. We had a very nice guy who helped us. And so Portuguese is in. There's a few, let's say, when something is making your life easier, a few, help me out here, Joseph, a few features that make your life easier.
Or do you mean benefits or?
It's okay. It's just some buttons we implemented. For example, when you want to reinvest or withdraw, you can click min, max, and it just puts in. You don't need to type to the cent certain amounts in the system anymore. It's more tiny,
more user friendly.
Quality of life. I was thinking. So quality of life adjustments. This was
all right. User friendly too. I did notice that in the back end where you hit the max button.
Exactly. Right. These are new. These are the new ones.
Right.
And yeah, that's it from the YieldNodes side.
Well, great.
Everything else is going great. We're very happy. Everything is going according to plan. So no bad things on the horizon.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Well, you guys have been doing really well through, Bitcoin's correction in the last, almost 6 months now. So that's very encouraging to see how well we've done.
That's also a good point, when you carry a good offer. If Bitcoin is low and we collect low Bitcoin, we also have a good chance, of growing that in the future. Because other projects, like I know a very similar project to ours, which had two major differences. One was it was pegged against Bitcoin, which doesn't make any sense to me because when you're exchanging for masternoding, you have other coins. So why do you peg it against Bitcoin, which can go up or down? You have no control. It's a gambling factor, and you need to peg it against something stable, or you cannot see how you're making the gains against that.
Right.
So that was probably one. And the other was that they didn't invest into any project whatsoever. They just purely from an outside perspective, masternode certain coins. And I believe this is also in the long run because you depend too much on other entities. And I believe this was also one of the reasons for the downfall. But so far, we are really very happy. And we're also very grateful that we have a lot of great people in the community that help us.
Yeah.
Oh, and the last thing that I forgot was that we are building on their resource. We are building on a quite big knowledge book, so to speak, where there are all the user-generated videos that we have seen on the web, where they teach you in video and in articles how to masternode, how to set up a coin, how to stake Decenomy coins, how to withdraw, how to compound. There's so much good quality content out there, and we made a resource where users can submit that. You can upvote, downvote, you can mark it,
Oh,
and we will
fantastic.
publish that so that you can learn from that resource. It's going to be go live probably end of the month.
Is that going to be on Decenomy or on YieldNodes?
It's on Decenomy content and YieldNodes, both. So it's like a YieldNodes / Decenomy knowledge area where you can learn. Because with a little bit of video guidance from guys who did it, you can stake your own coins, you can stake on a laptop, you can set up some masternodes, diversify, learn how it works, and get a feel for it. This is very beneficial to understand, because an informed investor is probably a happier investor than someone who's throwing money into a black hole and expects something to come out.
No, I agree. Great idea. Like
that's all I wanted to say. I'm good.
All right. Well, great, Steve. Thanks again. Have a great day. Until the next time. Thank you so much. Forward to seeing you.
Thank you for sharing your private stories as well. You know, it's always very insightful when I understand what you have been going through, and your story is quite similar to mine, you know, with some things. Maybe I used to be an investor and it just didn't work out. When you spend so much energy and time doing something and then you get kicked in the face at the last. So my sympathies, but hopefully we are going to recover now together. With some decent
together. Thank you.
Joseph, thank you so much. Okay. It has been a pleasure.
All right. We'll see you.
Take care. Take care. Bye-bye.